Good morning and welcome to Wisdom of the World. Today's story is from Africa, from the Kikuyu tribe in Kenya. And the story is called The Girl with a Gap Between Her Teeth. And it goes like this. Long, long ago in central Kenya, where there was plenty of grazing for cattle and goats, a beautiful young girl named Wakiki lived with her family. When she smiled, you could see the gap between her well-formed front teeth, which, in those parts, made her even more beautiful. In fact, her beauty was well known not only in the area in which she lived, but in the surrounding districts as well. Everybody had heard of the beautiful Wakiki. Whenever the young girls went visiting as a group, they noticed that the young men only took an interest in Wakiki. This made them very jealous of her, and so they thought of a plan to try and get rid of her. This way they hoped that the young man would like them instead. One carefree summer afternoon, when all the girls of the area were on their way to visit friends, they came across an aardvark's tunnel. They quickly whispered and connived amongst themselves and decided that they would push Wakiki down the tunnel. As the wind whipped through the grass at their feet, they suddenly grabbed the beautiful Wakiki and shoved her down the tunnel. "What are you doing?" she said as they pushed her, but she was not able to stop them. The hole was very deep and it grew darker as she went further down into the depth of the earth. The young girl smiled as they knew that even if she tried, she would never be able to climb out of it. Then they continued on their way to meet their friends, dancing and singing as they went along. Fortunately for Wakiki, who was left behind in the aardvark hole, she could still breathe, because when she was pushed into the tunnel, she was not buried by the soil. Wakiki had a younger brother who loved her very deeply. If she had not returned home by the time the moon and his tribe, the stars, had risen in the night sky, he would stay awake, waiting for her, even though he was very tired after his daily activity of herding the goats. He even had a special song that he sang to his sister. When she did not return home that night, the young boy was tearful and very worried about her safety. The next morning when he went out with his goats, he searched everywhere for her. As his energetic brown and white goats tugged at the coarse clumps of grass around him and then wandered off, he kept singing his special song for her. "Wakiki, Wakiki, you with the gap between your teeth, you are so beautiful. Wakiki, Wakiki, you with the gap between your teeth, you are so beautiful." The wind caught his song and carried it over the hills, and as people knew that the young boy always sang for his sister, they didn't pay much attention to him as he continued to sing and to sing the song, never giving up. Even the goats that wandered off to the rocky outcrop nearby took no notice of his song. As he sat, gazing out over the hillside, the young boy did not suspect that Wakiki was nearby. The girls knew, but they carried their secret with them as they traveled across the countryside. And had anyone known what they had done, they could have been accused of murder. Poor Wakiki. She had been pushed headfirst into the aardvark tunnel, and although she was still living, the girls thought that she had not survived her fall. Meanwhile, in the dark depth of the tunnel, Wakiki heard a faint sound and then she heard singing, but she thought that it came from a long distance away. The song sounded familiar, and as it became louder, she recognized the singer as her brother. "It is my brother," the one I love deeply, she said, and for the first time, hope rose within her. Wakiki was so excited that she sang the special song for her brother, and as his frisky goats frolicked around him, his sister's song reached his ears. He jumped up and he looked all around him as the singing continued. He looked to the left, he looked to the right, in front of him and behind, but he couldn't hear where the singing was coming from, as it was muffled. As he walked towards the tunnel, his foot struck the mound of soil near the opening, and he suddenly realized that the singing was coming from deep inside the hole. The boy looked down the tunnel in the hope of finding his sister. He was even prepared to risk his life for the sake of Wakiki, but he decided that the hole was too deep. So he left his goats grazing and ran home to get help. The people in his village could not believe the young boy's tale about Wakiki. They doubted that the aardvark hole even existed, as he had never seen it before, but they followed him all the same. As the sun was halfway on its journey to the west in a cloud-streaked sky, the boy ran to the aardvark tunnel, followed by breathless people who were struggling to keep up with him. First, the older people went down the tunnel and were relieved to find Wakiki. Then they tied a leather strap around her, and those who remained at the entrance pulled her out of the hole. Everyone was very relieved that Wakiki was rescued in time. Although she was frightened and in shock, she had survived the ordeal. The elders discussed the young girl's behavior, but because they all came from the same district, they decided not to punish them, saying, "All children are the same. They all behave badly at times." Everyone was just so relieved that Wakiki did not die, nor was she harmed in any way. Wakiki grew to be even more beautiful as the years passed. When she was a young woman, she married and was made a member of the clan and part of the community, as is the custom amongst the Kikuyu people. People admired her even more because she held no anger towards the girls who had caused her such pain. They even became friends again. Thank you.